What up? It's your boy Ray V. Let's get it.
Sad boy.
Sad boy quote of the day.
a
F
new
ain't
wide
for
receiver.
feels, it's for
You're trying to
fantasies.
sell
So
me.
let's get
Who
into our deepest fantasies,
sucks?
baby.
I'll give you a third for him, though.
I'm rocking a Collins Sexton jersey today. Shout out Fanatic. These jerseys were just cheap. It's Friday, y'all. Let's have some fun. Hopefully keep it light and less yappy today. Push my words per video count down. But we finna talk about 5 players that will bust this year in ADP. It's easy to talk about players you think will be my guys, but it's definitely harder and more flag plant like to call out the busters. Let's get to it. Our first guy is going to be Nico Collins. He's around wide receiver 8 and 13th pick overall in consensus rankings currently. Nothing really to do with Nico, kinda sorta, but more to do with the offense. Here in Jaden Higgins is wide receiver 2 and Jalen Nola is wide receiver 3 solidified, allegedly. I also feel like they're just going to spread the ball out more to make the offense better. Also hearing Texans are hopping on the bandwagon. They actually tried to last year, but their backup tight ends kept going down. 12 and 13 personnel, man. It's a copycat league for real. Schultz and Marlon Klein should be on the field more and should definitely eat. But it really seems like the offense itself is going to turn up. But with Nico, you're paying for his ceiling, not his medium outcome. Collins is being drafted as a fantasy wide receiver 1, despite relatively modest target volume compared to the true elite receivers. His production has been driven heavily by efficiency, which is harder to sustain year after year. This year, he has more competition than ever. The Texans have those emerging young receivers I glossed over earlier in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Nola, plus the returning weapon of Tank Dell. If Collins loses even a small slice of target share, it's going to be hard for him to justify a top 10 wide receiver price. And to just turn over every leaf, Houston may just not throw enough. The Texans are projected a relatively balanced or run-oriented offense, which caps overall pass volume, especially with the addition of David Montgomery. Collins has been elite on a per-target basis, but volume is king in fantasy, and his durability concerns haven't disappeared. He's never played a full NFL season, and injury risk matters more when you're spending a second round pick. If Collins goes from a 24% target share to, say, 19, while the Texans remain run heavy and healthy at wide receiver, he can easily finish as wide receiver 15 to 18, which would make a wide receiver 8 draft cost a disappointment. To be fair, he's been a top 10 wide receiver whenever healthy and remains CJ Stroud's clear number 1 target, so bust is far from guaranteed. Next guy's gonna be Bucky Irving, running back 19, 52nd pick overall. I guess I just hate Bucky, but for real, he just hasn't been the same since his rookie year. His 2025 season was ugly. After an explosive rookie year, he averaged just 3.4 yards per carry and ranked near the bottom of the league in several efficiency metrics. The workload will not only be his. Tampa Bay brought in Kenneth Gainwell and brought back Sean Tucker after initially letting him go, creating a legitimate committee risk. Coaches have even discussed a hot hand approach. They've been hyping up Kenneth Gainwell so much as well, and Bucky was just so much better with the ball less as the 2 and the 1-2 punch, so maybe if Gainwell takes the lead role, Bucky could be himself again, but I fully expect Bucky and Gainwell to be fighting each other for touches between the 5s. Then Sean Tucker's gonna come in to steal the touchdowns and short yardage. Not ideal for any of them, really. We literally saw this last season. Bucky's goal line work, or lack thereof, is a major concern. Irving had 0 touches inside the 5-yard line last season, while Tucker handled the most high-value rushing opportunities. Health is just becoming part of his profile. He missed significant time in 2025, had shoulder surgery this offseason, and has a growing injury history for a back who wins with explosiveness rather than size. He barely started doing things in camp this week, and he's in a non-contact jersey. You'd be drafting a bounce back, not last year's production. His ADP assumes the 2024 version returns, but there's a real chance he's simply one piece of a 3-man backfield. If Gainwell steals passing downs, Tucker keeps the goal line work, and Irving is merely average on the ground again, you're paying running back 2 prices for a running back 3 finish. But his rookie season showed genuine difference-making talent, and if he regains that form while holding 18 touches a game, all the concerns could look overblown, but I think he still will bust. Next guy is Malik Nabers, wide receiver 12 and 26th pick overall. I should have made this video and take earlier when he was still around wide receiver 5 range, but whatever. I think where there's smoke, there's definitely fire. The knee is the entire story. Nabers is coming off a torn ACL plus meniscus repair and then needed a second procedure during rehab. I'm hearing week 1 is the target return point when it was the start of training camp previously. Now I'm hearing pup stint and even a chance to stay there all year long. I feel like the middle is probably the truth. Pup stint or miss the first 2 weeks or something. Being ready that close to the season, I feel like it would be ridiculous for the Giants to just throw him back in there 100% without ramping up. On that turf field, the ramp up period should be slow too, right? Their young superstar wide receiver, so will he really be worth taking at wide receiver 12, 26th overall? There is legitimate concern that he may not be fully ready for week 1 or could even have a slow ramp up. You're drafting him near his ceiling. His current cost assumes he quickly returns to being a fantasy wide receiver 1. That's a big assumption for a receiver coming off a major knee surgery. A healthy Nabers isn't the same as an explosive Nabers. Even if he's active, lower body injuries can sap explosiveness and efficiency before the player is fully back to form. And the Giants offense still carries risks. You're betting on a recovering star receiver tied to a young quarterback and an offense that remains somewhat projection based rather than proven. I'm hearing a lot of chatter from John Harbaugh critiquing the crap out of Jackson Dart too. And missing September matters. If he starts off on the PUP list or is limited early, you just spent a premium pick on a player who may not help you when fantasy managers are trying to survive that first month. If he misses a few games, starts slowly, and finishes wide receiver 20 instead of wide receiver 5 or even his projected wide receiver 12, he doesn't have to be bad to bust at his ADP. To be fair though, as a rookie, he posted 109 catches and 1,200 yards, and if the knee is truly behind him, he has an overall wide receiver 1 upside because the Giants still want the offense to run through him. But I'm not feeling that. Our next guy is going to be Jameson Williams, wide receiver 22 and 46th pick overall. Feel like it's hard to say JMO will bust as wide receiver 22, barely in the wide receiver 2 range, but he was pretty good at the end of last season. Definitely thought he'd be a little higher just so this would be a juicier take. But the case against JMO at ADP is basically saying that you're paying for highlights, not the weekly reliability. His target share is still surprisingly low. Despite the breakout, he earned only a 17% target share. That's hard to sustain as a fantasy wide receiver 2 when he's competing with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs for touches. Let's be for real, his best stretch came when Sam Laporta was out. A significant chunk of JMO's late season surge coincided with the very game that Sam Laporta began his injury absence. If everyone is healthy, the target pie gets much tighter. The week-to-week floor is scary. He had multiple 0-point games and several weeks where he was essentially unusable despite finishing the year with strong season numbers. He's still a deep threat receiver. Deep threats naturally have more volatile fantasy scoring because they rely on big plays rather than volume. And the offensive changes add uncertainty. Detroit enters 2026 with a new offensive coordinator, making it dangerous to assume that last year's second half surge usage carries over exactly. If Laporta returns to full health and Williams stays around 15% target share, he could easily finish as wide receiver 25 to wide receiver 30, despite occasional monster games, making him frustrating at cost. Ironically, this is also why he's one of the best ball wide receivers in fantasy. His spike weeks are league winning. In managed leagues though, you are constantly guessing when those explosions will happen. And our last guy is going to be Jadarian Price, running back 26, 66th pick overall. I wanted to pick Jeremiah Love, but he was already running back 15, so he got pushed down a bunch from when I made that spicy takes video. Guess it ain't that spicy no more. SMH my head. But fantasy managers may be drafting the opportunity and athleticism more than the actual profile. He was never a true workhorse in college. Price flashed explosive efficiency at Notre Dame, but he never handled a bell cow workload and spent much of his career behind Jeremiah Love. There's a real question whether he can hold up to 250 plus NFL touches. There's a real question whether or not the Seahawks would even think about having a bell cow with their offense. His receiving profile is a major red flag. He had only 15 career receptions in college. For fantasy running backs, lack of a pass game usage is often the difference between running back 1 upside and a touchdown dependent running back 2. His ADP is pricing in the perfect scenario. Drafters are assuming he'll immediately seize the Seattle backfield and keep it all season long. If the workload ends up closer to 55 to 60% of snaps instead of the 70% plus people are saying, the return on investment becomes much shakier. The resume is built on efficiency, not volume. Price averaged 6 yards per carry and generated explosive plays, but efficiency often regresses when backs move from change of pace roles to full-time NFL starters. And there are durability questions. He suffered a ruptured Achilles earlier in his college career, and we simply haven't seen him carry a heavy workload over a long period. And the drumbeat behind George Holani is only getting louder. And I'm hearing Zach Charbonnet is eyeing an early October return rather than late November. That would muck up the running back room for sure. He just recently showed up to camp when he was previously projected nowhere near ready yet. The tea leaves be tea leaving. If he turns out to be a 2-down back with limited receiving work and a 60% snap share, he could finish as the running back 32 and on type player while being drafted closer to his ceiling. To be fair, Seattle spent first round draft capital on him. The backfield is wide open and his explosiveness gives him legitimate league winning upside if he earns 3-down duties. He won't though. Hopefully this vid is short and chill for a Friday, but I do hope y'all enjoyed it and liked the analysis and the calls. These dudes will bust. No pause. Even though this was more of a redraft type talk today, never forget your daily dose of send that trade. Send it. Send it. That's it for today, though. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, rebuilds fade, dynasties reign. Call me a lover boy, simp, Libra. It's more than love sick. I got a fever. Feelings overloading. Not to be a diva. Standing 10 toes down. I'm not gonna leave you.